Like superheroes, they too performed amazing physical feats while wearing tights. On smoke-filled Friday nights in the old city auditorium, and on Saturday night TV, pro wrestling rocked St. Joseph.
I know for over 40 years they had it at the auditorium, and it was a weekly event every Friday night. Gus Karras did those.
Gus Karras brought colorful wrestlers to town to fill the ring at the old city auditorium on Friday night and Big Two wrestling on Saturday night TV. The Saturday night show was hosted by a bespectacled, suit and tie wearing host named Bob White. The longtime host was replaced by Jim Connors in the 1970s.
Saturday was a very busy day, and that we had all these live programs going on in the studio. It was probably our busiest day of the week. And the wrestling obviously was the highlight. That was the show we got the most response on from all over Northwest Missouri, Northeast Kansas. That was the show that got recognition. I could be in Kansas City and people would come up and say, "You do that wrestling show on Channel 2."
The wrestlers themselves were a colorful lot. They had names like Bulldog, the Viking, the Sheik, and the Ox. There were good guys and bad guys.
The guys that played the meanest guys and the most the loudest guys, quite honestly, were the nicest guys and the easiest guys to get along with. Oftentimes it was the prima donna good guys that came in that were the hardest to get along with.
At ringside on Saturday night, old wrestling fans can remember the familiar sight of Murdy and Gertie. The two elderly twins were as popular as the wrestlers they cheered on or booed away.
Murdy and Gertie, they lived in Kansas City, Kansas. They were avid fans of wrestling. They would come to the matches, and they were so regular that Gus made a point they came to every match that he had. And they'd come up on the edge of the ring and they'd bang their purses, and when the officers were escorting the wrestlers, they were more worried about Murdy and Gertie than they were the wrestlers because they were coming out and swinging their purse, and they said, "All right, now you got to sit down."
Pro wrestling was popular in St. Joseph until the 1980s. Still, the sport left its mark on the city.
I would have to say in the 60s and 70s probably was the height of it. I know I looked back at some of the dates in the 60s, and they would draw 2,800, 3,000 people at the old auditorium.
The city auditorium has long since been torn down. TV stations no longer play local wrestling on Saturday nights, but pro wrestling in St. Joseph still lives in the smoky haze of memory for many fans. For Fox 26 KNPN and the St. Joseph News Press, this is Alonzo Weston.